Hey everyone! A long time ago, I put together this mega power bank using Tesla 21700 cells. Back then, I had no idea it would become so popular in my family. It charges overnight, and during the day it just sits on the table, and my family uses it to charge all their gadgets. Despite heavy use, it's holding up really well and works great. If you're interested, you'll find a link to the full video showing the assembly process of this power bank in the description. Since my family basically claimed that power bank for themselves, I decided to make another one for myself, just as cool. But to be completely honest, the idea to make this power bank came to me spontaneously. A long time ago, just for testing, I bought these pretty decent lithium iron phosphate cells, model 32140, from LiFePO4. LiFePO4 is a pretty mediocre brand. When it comes to their smaller cells, I wouldn't recommend them. But their larger ones, especially the lithium iron phosphate ones, actually perform quite well. So, after those tests, I put together a battery using them and even used it for a while. Though, to be honest, not for long. Since then, this half-finished battery has just been lying around in my workshop. And so it wouldn't just sit there doing nothing, I decided to use it in my power bank. As you can see, I have 4 cells, each at 3.2 volts and 15 amp hours. Altogether, that's 192 watt-hours of energy. To make it easier to understand, I'll convert it into a more familiar format. If this battery were a classic lithium-ion, it would basically be a power bank with 52,000 milliamp hours. And that's a real 52 amp hours. These cells have a number of features compared to classic lithium ones. They have a much longer lifespan, up to 4,000 to 6,000 cycles, which is over 10 years. They're not afraid of cold temperatures and are much safer. The downside is that they have a lower specific energy density compared to the classic ones. Their nominal discharge current is 1 C or 15 amps, but the maximum is 75 amps, and they can actually handle that. The nominal charging current is 3 amps, and the maximum is 1 C or 15 amps. So, if you really want to, you can charge the bank in an hour, but you'll need the right charging system for that. Now, about the power bank board. In my opinion, this is a really cool board based on the IP2368 chip, which I also reviewed on my second channel. It's pretty simple, it doesn't even have a display, and it shows the charge level with 4 LEDs. The board isn't exactly loaded with ports either. There's just one Type-C port. So why this one in particular? First, it has a bidirectional Type-C port that works both for charging gadgets and for charging the power bank's batteries. But that's nothing special these days. Second, it has a high-efficiency synchronous boost buck converter. Third, it delivers 100 watts of power both for charging and discharging. Fourth, it's one of the most versatile boards on the market when it comes to working with different batteries. It has a bunch of resistors that let you select the battery type, including phosphate. With resistor R7, you set the number of cells in series from 2 to 6S. With resistor R5, you can set the battery capacity so the indicator shows the correct remaining charge. With resistor R4, you can set the battery's charge termination voltage, and you can limit both the current and the overall power, which, let's be honest, is pretty cool. Of course, the board supports all imaginable and even unimaginable fast charging protocols, or at least most of them. At the output, it can deliver from 5 to 20 volts with a maximum current of up to 5 amps, and it will charge laptops, smartphones, and everything else. And here's its bigger brother, rated at 140 watts, supporting power delivery 3.1, which can output up to 28 volts. But this board is less versatile. First, you need to set the board to 4S mode, lithium iron phosphate, and set the capacity to about 52 amp hours, set the charge termination voltage to 3.6 or 3.65 volts, and then proceed with assembly. I've praised this board so much that now, at the end, it feels a bit awkward to mention its drawback. Yes, there is a drawback. This is not a fully functional power bank board. It can't provide protection since it doesn't have a BMS, and it also can't provide balancing. That's why the battery needs a separate BMS board, preferably with at least passive balancing, but of course, active balancing would be even better. Although, I've never seen a power bank with an active balancer installed. Let's get to the point. This is the BMS board I'm going to use. It's a powerful and pretty decent board. These boards are available for both regular lithium-ion batteries and for phosphate ones. In our case, of course, it's the latter. Overall, this is a symmetrical BMS board with a claimed maximum current of up to 100 amps, but that's only for short periods. It's designed for assembling from 3 to 5S. In my case, it's set to 4S mode. It has an onboard passive balancing system with process indication. It provides protection against short circuits, deep discharge, overcharge, and, if desired, even overheating. We settled on the components, now let's talk about the construction. First, you need to figure out how the elements will be arranged and what the overall case will look like. I want to make a rectangular case with smoothly rounded corners, so that's why the cells are arranged this way. Nickel strips are welded to their contacts using laser welding. I'll solder the main connecting bus bars to them, which in my case are made of tinned copper. The cross-section of the connecting bus bars is almost 8 square millimeters, which is more than enough. But there's a reason for that. Before assembling the battery, all the cells were balanced. In addition to the original heat shrink, the cells are further insulated from each other with Kapton tape and glued together to improve vibration resistance. Since there's a powerful and high-capacity battery, it would be a shame not to take advantage of it and add an extra power connector. It's connected directly to the BMS board, and if needed, this power bank can be used for other purposes, like for 12-volt to 220-volt inverters, powering an uninterruptible power supply, and anything else that runs on 12 volts. I guess it would have been a good idea to add a fuse to the positive power line in case the BMS fails. But I was too lazy. For the power connector, I used a reliable XT90. Since we know all the dimensions and have a rough idea of what the case should look like, we can start modeling the case itself. After some time, we end up with this simple, minimalist-style case. All that's left is to load the model into the slicer and hit print. A little while later, the printer finished printing our model. By the way, I printed it with ABS plastic, which is more heat-resistant compared to PLA or PTG. And that's important here, since there could be some heating. Now it's just a matter of putting everything together. I should note that absolutely all the wires are highly flexible and have heat-resistant silicone insulation. The power wires are 10 AWG gauge. Now that everything is fully assembled, it's time to test our power bank. The USB tester shows 100 watts available and a bunch of fast-charging protocols. About the 100-watt power output, you can be sure that the stated 100 watts is actually delivered. This has been verified multiple times. The same goes for charging the power bank itself. If you want the fastest possible charging via Type-C, your adapter should be at least 100 watts, and even then it will be running at its limit. So it's better to get one that's around 120 watts. The LED charge indicator shows the level more or less accurately. And yeah, I was too lazy to screw everything together, so I ended up gluing the case halves with dichloromethane. Hopefully, I won't have to take it apart. At the end, I made some 3D badges to make it look nice and professional. In my opinion, it turned out pretty well. To be honest, this video was shot a while ago, at the beginning of the summer of 2025, and since then the power bank has been in active use. No problems have been noticed during operation. High power and large capacity, a pretty convenient form factor, a handy board, and phosphate cells on board make it a great solution for long hikes. It's almost like a mini charging station. If you want, you can even power powerful 12 to 220 inverters with it. In most factory-made power banks, even the expensive ones, they use polymer packs as batteries, which have a terrible lifespan and swell up for any reason or none at all. But phosphate, that's something that will last for you and your kids. Unless, of course, your kids break it the day after tomorrow or even yesterday. Well, I guess it's time to wrap things up. If you like this project and want to make one for yourself, you'll find everything you need in the description, from the module and batteries to the 3D model of the case. But let me say right away, a DIY build can never be cheaper than a factory-made product. So this isn't a cheap power bank, but it is a really cool one. Yeah, obviously it can't compete with your super cool power bank with 100,000 mAh that you bought on the marketplace for 1,000 rubles. That's because I'm not smart enough to find those kinds of crazy deals. Or maybe I just don't believe in that kind of freebie. The almighty Voltfarad, together with lithium sand batteries, won't let you lie about it. Well, that's it. The video has come to an end. If you found it useful, you can support the creator with a like and a kind word in the comments. That's all from me for today. As always, this was Kassiana Ka with you, and see you next time. Bye.